The name Eddy Leutenez is likely to be familiar to many pigeon enthusiasts. After all, Eddy belongs to the new and young generation of pigeon enthusiasts who had emerged in the middle of the 1980s and quickly ascended to the national top. Being a region and peer of celebrities like Luc Waldack, Patrick de Smet, Erwin, Maarten Dant, and Freddie Vandenheede. The competition to be the first bird on the clock back then was virtually a weekly ritual that, on a few occasions, produced provincial or even national success. It could be challenging in the area at times, particularly in the national classics with the younger birds. Thus, that this area around Zingem, Geveer, Semmerzeken, Verst, was quickly dubbed the Golden Triangle in the international pigeon press. During the years 1985 to 2000, Eddy Leutenez, a resident of Semmerzeken, was undoubtedly one of the top players, putting up impressive performances and producing consistent successes each week, which also produced an impressive string of provincial and national title wins, provincial triumphs, and provincial ace pigeons. In addition to 4 first national victories, which is the nearest attainable place of honor, and at least 6 first national victories. In addition to numerous top 10 placements in national rankings. It makes sense why Eddy was featured in the pigeon press under the pseudonym Eddy Stuntman, Leutenez. Phenomenal performance curve was largely based on and built with the descendants of the absolute stock sire of the Leutenez colony, listening to the name Supercrack, ring Belgium 83-4644784. Which grandfather was of no less than 6 national winners. A golden stock bear, and a super breeder out of 1,000. Other important and notorious cracks from this period were A.O. It ran like a piece of cake during this period. It was about Eddy, who at the time ran an independent business in maintenance products, in other words, on all fronts before the wind. But as they say, there is a negative side to every coin. This also presented itself to Eddy. Several lab tests, clinical evaluations, and serious health issues emerged. Until the last decision was made, and a severe occupational disease was identified. Due to the pigeon dust, Eddy was also recommended to give up the pigeon sport. The colony was sold in 2004 as a result. A severe psychological hit on many different levels. It was of such a kind that Eddy also desired to leave his comfortable surroundings and erected a new building on a freshly acquired plot of land in Kruishoutem. The permanent relocation from Semmerzeken to the new site in Kruishoutem occurred in 2005. A fresh start to 2007. The prosperous era in Semmerzeken abruptly ended. Unfortunately, this also raises the possibility that reinforcements were en route. Since the time, son Maarten, daughter Sophie, and son-in-law Kurt all expressed interest in the pigeon sport. A garden shed that Kurt and Sophie converted into a pigeon loft was home to a few pigeons. However, it was impossible to raise pigeons at all, in part because of time constraints and professional situations. Son Maarten, a nurse by trade, loved the idea of pursuing a football career at Duithuistraat and had his sights set on football. Before glandular fever intervened to throw a wrench in the works, there was a protracted period of inaction. He found himself idle for a spell, and the pigeon bug returned. Naturally, Father Eddy saw these changes with an approving eye when one day he cherished the thought of taking his chances in the pigeon sport again. New lofts were quickly constructed in Kruishoutem, behind the newly constructed home. Maarten does the majority of the pigeon work, although he often seeks brother-in-law Kurt for help as needed. They teamed up, and due to their shifting work schedules, they became the perfect team to periodically support the colony. Naturally, number one supporter, father and father-in-law Eddy Leutenez, also lends them support. The man with the extensive experience and luxurious track record, who can now design the lines from a distance, decide on a breeding plan, and direct the ways of racing. Can encourage, mentor, and assist his poulains as needed and maintain a watchful eye on things that are not to be taken lightly. However, Eddy no longer visits the lofts unless he is direly needed. His assistance is primarily restricted to the pigeons' training and basketing. And from time to time sponsor the company, Maarten laughs. A true family sport is pigeon sport. The Leutenez family is infatuated with pigeon racing. Nobody knows better than an experienced fancier in the industry like Eddy Leutenez that to excel in the sport of pigeon racing, having a strong foundation in knowledge is essential for success. Thus, Maarten and Eddy looked for their old success lines at their new start. Their old sort was going to be returned to them by enthusiasts who had found success with it. Then, we can also state that 75% of their breeding loft is made up of near and distant offspring of their own good old sort, or their old fundamental lines. Lines from the Super Crack, Nikita, etc. They did this by pounding on Marc de Kock's door in Thames, who had purchased the Milan, in their entire auction. Meanwhile, this Milan has 6 children and grandchildren who live in the Leutenez breeding loft. The line, Blauw Fideel, a first national bribe by Gabby Vandenabele, has reinforced the Patrick and Dimitri Hof line. This Blauw Fideel's mother is specifically the Supercrack's daughter. Meanwhile, they had also arrived at Benny Stevening's house to gain something from Cheapo, a famous success line. Due to Leutenez, patron times Nikita, the top couple's daughter, grandmother Cheapo, or, to put it another way, a full sister of first national ace pigeon KBDB 1997, Milo. 8 direct Benny Stevening pigeons were housed in the Kruishoutem breeding loft. They looked for appropriate crossing material from Marc de Kock, from the top lines de Ross Avelin and Marcel Aelbrecht, Gabby Vandenabele lines, Wittenbeck and Bliksem, Wilfried Vandemale, Johan Tant, and Battenberg VD Merwe for the remaining 25% of the pigeons that presently occupy the breeding loft. Elegant breeding stock that allowed them to quickly reach new heights of success in the pigeon sport.